Okay, good morning, everyone. So today we will look at some of the applications of the Hahn-Banach theorem. So let me So first one corollary of the Hahn-Banach theorem is suppose we have V is any non-linear space and x naught is any point in V. Suppose x naught is a non-zero vector, so x naught is V minus 0. Then there exists a bounded linear functional f, so f in V star such that norm f is equal to 1 and f of x naught is equal to norm x naught. So this says that given any non-zero vector, you can find a bounded linear functional such that f of x naught is equal to norm x naught, and we can make norm f is equal to 1 also. So prove this. We would like to apply Hahn-Banach theorem. So if you have any bounded linear functional on a subspace which satisfies a norm is equal to 1, then by Hahn-Banach theorem you can extend it to the whole space with the same norm. Right? So it is very easy to see what to do. So let W equal to the subspace spanned by x naught. This is the subspace spanned by x naught. Then we will define G from W to F by G of, so any vector in W is a scalar multiple of x naught. So if I have G of alpha x naught, how should we define G of alpha x naught? What we want is that at x naught, the value should be equal to norm x naught. So this should be equal to alpha times G of x naught. So, and we want G of x naught to be equal to norm of x naught. So we simply define G of alpha x naught is alpha times norm x naught. So then G is linear, right? Because any point in W is of the form alpha times x naught. So if you take alpha x naught plus beta x naught, then G of that will be equal to alpha plus beta times norm x naught. So that is equal to G of alpha x naught plus G of beta x naught. So G is linear and norm of G is equal to 1, right? Because if you look at G of alpha x naught mod, this is equal to mod alpha times norm x naught, which is equal to norm of alpha x naught. So this implies that if we take the supremum of this thing, So this implies norm G is equal to 1. So we get a bounded linear functional on W. So therefore G belongs to W star and norm G is equal to 1. So by the Hahn-Banach theorem, let me write HBT for Hahn-Banach theorem. By the Hahn-Banach theorem, there exists F belonging to V star such that F restricted to W is G and norm of F is equal to norm of G, which is equal to 1. So then we are done, right? So then we have norm of F is equal to 1, and what is F of x naught? F of x naught will be equal to G of x naught, which is equal to norm x naught. So also as a corollary to this, we can write that if V is a non-linear space and xy belongs to V such that x is not equal to y, then there exists F belonging to V star such that Fx is not equal to Fy. So this we say that V star separates points of V. So given two distinct points in the nonlinear space, there exists some bounded linear functional such that Fx is not equal to Fy. So how do we get this? So you simply take x naught is equal to x minus y 0 and apply the previous corollary. So the previous corollary says that there exists F belonging to V star such that F at x naught is equal to norm of x naught. So that will be equal to Fx minus Fy is equal to norm of x naught is norm of x minus y, which is non-zero. So Fx is not equal to Fy. Another corollary. Let V be a non-linear space and x be any point in V, then norm of x is equal to supremum of mod Fx, where the supremum is over all F in V star with norm F less than equal to 1. And this is in fact equal to maximum of mod fx where f in v star norm f less than equal to 1. So we have to show that norm x is equal to the supremum, and supremum is in fact attained, so that is equal to maximum. So if f belongs to v star and norm f is less than equal to 1, then mod of fx is less than equal to norm f times norm x, and norm f is less than equal to 1, so this will be less than equal to norm x. So for every f with norm f less than equal to 1, norm of x is bigger than equal to mod fx. So this implies that norm x is bigger than equal to supremum of mod fx, where f belongs to v star and norm f is less than equal to 1. We want to show that this is actually equal. So for that we will show that there exists some f for which we get mod fx is equal to norm x. So what we know is that by maybe let me write this as corollary 1, corollary 2. By corollary 1, there exists f in v star such that norm f is equal to 1 and fx is equal to norm of x. Right? The corollary 1 says that for any yeah, so this is true if x is non-zero. So if x is equal to 0, then of course we have both sides are equal to 1. So we can assume that x is non-zero. So let me write that for x equal to 0, this is obviously true. If x is equal to 0, then obvious assume x is non-zero, because if x is equal to 0, then all these things are equal to 0. So if x is non-zero, then by corollary 1 we know that there exists f with norm f equal to 1 and fx equal to norm x. So then this implies this is equal. So this supremum of mod fx this has to be bigger than equal to norm x. So therefore these are equal, and because we have one f for which this is equal, so therefore we are done. Okay, so now next we will show that we have a natural embedding of V into V double star. So, look at embedding of V into its double dual V double star. So we want to define a map from X to from V to V double star. So suppose X is any element of V, so then we can define J sub X. This is a map from V star to F by Jx of, if I take any F in V star, then we define Jx of F is equal to F of X. We know that F of X is a scalar. So this defines a map from V star to the scalar field F. Jx of F is equal to F of X. So what do we know about this Jx? So if we look at mod Jx of F, this is equal to mod of Fx, which is less than equal to norm F times norm X. So this implies Jx belongs to V star star. Right? So Jx becomes a bounded linear. So Jx is linear is also clear. So if you take Jx of F plus G, then that is same as the Fx plus Gx. Jx is linear and we get that this is also bounded. So Jx belongs to V double star. And what is norm of Jx? So norm of Jx from here we are getting is less than equal to norm of F. Uh, norm of Jx is less than equal to norm of X, but it is actually equal, right? So why? Because but since we have seen that norm of X is equal to this maximum of mod Fx, F belong to V star, norm F less than equal to 1. So this is nothing but Fx is equal to Jx of F. So this will be Jx of F mod. So, but what is this? This by definition is equal to norm of Jx. So norm of Jx is equal to norm of X. So therefore, now we can define Hence the map J from V to V double star given by x going to Jx. For any x in V, we have defined a map Jx belonging to V double star. So we get a map from x to J of x. This is an isometry also. See that J is linear, because if you take J of any say alpha x plus beta x, then that applied on f will be f of alpha x plus beta x, and by the linearity of f, that is equal to alpha times fx plus beta times fx, uh, beta times fy, and that is same as alpha times jx of f plus. So J linear is also easy to check. So now we get a linear map from V to V double star, which is an isometry. So, so therefore, J maps V isometrically onto a subspace of V double star. Because it is an isometry, it is 1 1 also. So we get a 1 1 map from V to V double star, which is a linear transformation also, and it is continuous also. So this V can be considered as a subspace of V double star via this map. Right? So this is the embedding that we are talking, V into V double star. So V is isometrically isomorphic to a subspace of V double star. Okay. Now, this map in general need not be onto, but suppose this J is onto, then we have that V is isometrically isomorphic to V double star. So in that case, we will call this norm linear space V as reflexive. So definition. A Banach space V is said to be reflexive if this embedding that we defined, this is called the canonical embedding. So if the canonical embedding J from V to V double star defined above is surjective. So if this map is onto, then we call this as reflexive Banach space. Why did I say Banach space and not any norm linear space? Because you see what we have seen before, that for any norm linear space V star is always Banach, right? Because for any like space of bounded linear operators from say V to W, if W is complete, then we showed that BVW is complete. So in particular, if we take the scalar field, that is complete. So therefore, the V star is always complete. So if V is any non-linear space, V star is complete, and therefore V star star is also complete. So this V double star, this is always a Banach space. And if we get that this J is a surjective map from V to V double star, then that means that V is uh, isometrically isomorphic to V double star. So if V double star is complete, then it will imply that V is also complete. So it has to be a complete nonlinear space for this to be surjective. So therefore, reflexivity makes sense only for the complete nonlinear space. So in this definition, we have said that the Banach space will be said to be reflexive if this happens. If it is not a Banach space, it's just any incomplete nonlinear space, then it can never be reflexive because you cannot have this. Okay, so now let us look at some examples of reflexive Banach space. So So example, so first we will show that the sequence space LP, that is reflexive if P is greater than 1 and less than infinity. So for P strictly between 1 and infinity, this little LP space will be shown to be reflexive. So, consider the Banach space LP for P between 1 and infinity. So we are not including P equal to 1 and P equal to infinity case here. So let P star be the conjugate exponent of P, that is 1 by P plus 1 by P star is equal to 1. So if P is strictly between 1 and infinity, then P star is also strictly between 1 and infinity. So now if we take any thing in LP star, so let's check, let Y belongs to LP star, define F sub Y, this is from LP to F by Fy of, if I take any sequence X in LP, then we define Fy of X is equal to summation of Xi Yi. Let's take this F to be real here, real field. So we define Fy of X is equal to summation Xi Yi, I equal to 1 to infinity. So then what can you say about this Fy? First of all, Fy is linear. Is it also bounded functional?
Yeah, I think by that Minkowski's inequality.
Yeah, so Fy belongs to LP star we claim. So also Fy is bounded functional. This is because if we look at mod of Fy of X, that is equal to mod of summation Xi Yi, I equal to 1 to infinity. And here X is in LP and Y is in LP star. Then what we know is we have already seen, I think in one tutorial I have given you. The Holder's inequality says that, I mean, this is of course less than equal to summation of mod Xi mod Yi mod of Xi Yi, which is less than equal to norm of X P norm of Y P star. This is by Holder's inequality. So in fact, what we get is that norm of Fy is less than equal to norm Y P star. So for any Y in LP star, this Fy, so therefore for any Y belonging to LP star, Fy belongs to LP star. See, this star is at different place. So this is the dual of the LP space. And here we are writing LP star for P star, the conjugate exponent of P. Fy belongs to LP star and norm of Fy is less than equal to norm Y P star. Now we will show that if f is any bounded linear functional on LP, then it is equal to f sub y for some y. That means that we want to show that this y going to this Fy from LP star to LP, the dual of LP, that becomes onto map. So if we let any f belongs to LP star, we define f equal to f of ei. Here is the standard vector. One at the ith place. So if f is in LP star, we look at the image of these vectors ei and define fi equal to f of ei. Then these fi's are scalars, and let us write this yeah. So let y is equal to this sequence fi, f1, f2, and so on. So now we get a sequence y. What do we know about this sequence? So let's see. Yeah, so now we'll define suppose n is any natural number. We define xi is equal to 0 if I is between 1 and n and fi is equal to 0. So if fi is 0, then we define xi to be equal to 0. And if fi is non-zero for I between 1 and n, then we define xi to be equal to mod fi raised to power p star divided by fi. So if fi is non-zero, then we define like this, and for I bigger than n, we define this to be equal to 0. So this xi is a sequence where only finitely many terms can be non-zero. So for I bigger than n, it is always 0, and for I between 1 and n, if fi is 0, then we define 0, and if fi is non-zero, then we define it like this. Then obviously this sequence, if I define x equal to xi, this sequence, this is in LP, because only finitely many terms are non-zero, so of course it is in LP, and x is nothing but summation of xi ei I equal to 1 to infinity. In fact, xi ei I equal to 1 to n I can write. So therefore, what is f of x? F of x is summation I equal to 1 to n xi times f of ei, which is equal to summation I equal to 1 to n. What is f of ei? F of ei is equal to fi. So this will be xi times fi. But what is xi times fi? See, xi is defined as mod fi to the p star divided by fi. So fi xi is equal to mod fi to the p star if fi is non-zero, and if fi is 0, then it will be equal to 0, which again is same. So this I can write as summation I equal to 1 to n of mod fi raised to power p star. Is it okay? So fx is the summation of I 1 to n mod fi to the p star. So this implies summation of mod fi to the p star. Here sum is only from 1 to n. This is equal to mod of fx, which is less than equal to norm f times norm x. So x is in LP, and f we had taken in LP star. So this summation is less than equal to norm f times norm x p, and this is true for any n. This is true for every natural number n. Right hand side is independent of n. So
Actually,
okay,
even in the right hand side, this non-x will have dependence on n.
yeah. So I have to write norm x. So this is equal to norm f times what is norm x p, that is equal to summation I equal to 1 to n mod fi to the p star and raised to power 1 by p. Right? Because norm xp is equal to summation of xi to the p raised to power 1 by p. So what is xi to the p? So I mean, this you can let's see what is Just if you want, I can write this. So yeah, so because you have to write summation of mod xi to the p, and mod xi is equal to mod fi to the p star by mod fi. So that will be mod fi to the power p star minus 1, and then you take to the power p, and then you use this, that 1 by p star plus 1 by p is equal to 1, to see that you will get uh, mod xi to the power p is nothing but mod fi to the power p star. So we get this. So this is true for every n, and this fi uh, right. So let me write this. So this will imply summation I equal to 1 to n mod fi to the p star raised to power. You see, in the left hand side I have summation mod fi to the p star, and right hand side we have summation mod fi to the p star raised to power 1 by p. So you will get this to the power 1 minus 1 by p, 1 minus 1 by p. This is less than equal to norm of f. So that is summation I equal to 1 to n mod fi to the p star, and 1 minus 1 by p is 1 by p star. This is less than equal to norm f. This is true for every n in n. So this implies summation mod fi to the p star I equal to 1 to infinity raised to power 1 by p star. This is less than equal to norm of f. So this implies this fi, this sequence was y. So this implies y equal to this sequence fi. This belongs to LP start, and norm of y p star norm. This is less than equal to norm of f. Is this clear? So what we have shown that for any bounded linear functional on LP, we get a y in LP star such that this f sub y. So also you can see that what is my f sub y is same as f. So also, if we look at f of x, this is equal to summation of xi fi I equal to 1 to infinity, because this fx we wrote summation of xi fi I equal to 1 to n, but for I bigger than n, fi xi is equal to 0. So this So yeah, so what I was saying that yeah, so this is true for any x belonging to LP, right? Because f is in LP star. Any x in LP can be written as summation xi ei, and therefore f of x will be equal to summation this, right? So this is just by, because f belongs to LP star, right? So f of x will be equal to summation of xi f of ei, which is fi. So fx is summation xi fi, and what is fi? Fi is same as my yi, right? So this is equal to f sub y of x, right? How is f sub y defined? That is equal to summation xi yi, but yi is same as my fi, right? So this is equal to f sub y of x. This is true for every x, so this implies that f is equal to f sub y. And so this also implies norm of f is norm of f sub y, and we have seen that norm of f sub y is less than equal to norm y, so therefore this is less than equal to norm y p star. So we have norm y is less than equal to norm f, this is one, and we also have that norm of f is less than equal to norm y, so therefore this norm of f is equal to norm of f sub y equal to norm of y p star. So what we have shown here is that this for any y in LP star, we have a map in LP star. The map y going to f sub y from LP star to LP star is an isometry and also surjective. Right, we have shown that this is onto that if I take any f in LP star, then that is given by f sub y for some y in LP star. So this map is onto and this surjective. So what we get is that therefore the dual of LP is same as LP star. Right? This, I mean, strictly I should say that this is isomorphic to LP star. So this was for any p between 1 and infinity. The dual of LP is LP star, and hence what is the dual of LP star star, this will be equal to LP because the conjugate exponent of P star is P. So, the dual of LP is LP star and dual of LP star is LP. So what is the dual of LP double star? So therefore LP star star, this is isometrically isomorphic to LP. So this shows that we have this LP space is reflexive. LP is reflexive if P is between 1 and infinity. So you should see where like it may fail if P is equal to 1 or infinity. So I mean for P equal to 1 also, you can show that the dual of L1 is L infinity, but the dual of L infinity is not L1. So that is where like you will see that L1 space is not reflexive. Okay, so it is almost time. So maybe this one I'll leave as an exercise that you can show that dual of L1 is L infinity.
But L infinity is also like not Banach.
L infinity is Banach.
Oh, okay.
All these LP spaces are complete. So maybe this I'll leave as an exercise so that L1 star is equal to L infinity. Maybe I'll write, however, L infinity star is not same as L1. So hence L1 is not reflexive. Right. Similarly, if you are like aware with the function space capital LP, then there also we have similar result that capital LP is reflexive Banach space if P is strictly between 1 and infinity, and same result capital LP star will be equal to capital L of P star if P is between 1 and infinity, and capital L1 star is capital L infinity, but capital L infinity star is not the capital L1, so that is bigger than capital L1. Let me stop here. In the next class, we will see some more. Maybe I'll do the Hahn-Banach separation theorem also. Initially, I was thinking maybe I'll skip this, but probably I'll do this Hahn-Banach separation theorem. And after that, we'll discuss Baire category theorem, and then there are some important theorem of function analysis using Baire category theorem, like the open mapping theorem, closed graph theorem. So those things will be done later. So I'll give another tutorial sheet with some more problems where like you can use this Hahn-Banach theorem.
Sir, I had a doubt.